All right, hey everyone, welcome back. You know what we're doing here, right? A deep dive. And today it's into a rom-com classic. The kind you kind of roll your eyes at but secretly love. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh, yeah, I know this one.
You provided the Wikipedia page for it, so we're going way beyond just what's the plot? We're talking production, how people felt about it, and maybe even how its themes hold up in the world of dating today, 2025 and all that.
Yeah. It is kind of wild to think a rom-com can be like a window into how society thought about dating. Right?
Totally.
So basics first. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's a battle of the sexes kind of thing. Andie's this magazine writer. She's trying to get a guy to dump
For
her.
an article, right.
Exactly. And then there's Ben. He's in advertising, thinks he can make any woman fall for him. Bets on it even.
So they both get these hidden agendas.
Right from the start. What strikes you about that setup?
I guess. It's like doomed to fail. But then that's rom-com 101, isn't it? The clash is what's fun.
Oh, totally. And they play with that fake it till you make it, but both are faking. Different reasons.
Oh, yeah. Andy's like textbook don'ts of dating, right?
Clingy, emotional. She even shows up at his work unannounced. It's almost poking fun at that whole what women shouldn't do thing.
Which is so funny because the movie's actually based on a picture book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Same name. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And some of the don'ts from that made it into the movie.
No way. Makes you think, do those don't even still apply now? The dating in 2003 versus...
Right.
It's a whole different world. Apps, gender roles.
Can you imagine Andie trying to lose a guy through bad dating app messages? Would that even work?
Good point. But back to the movie itself. Casting's huge, right? Kate Hudson is Andie, Matthew McConaughey is Ben. People loved their chemistry.
Even critics who didn't love the plot, they admitted those two had something special.
And speaking of casting, get this. Gwyneth Paltrow almost got the part of Andie.
Whoa, seriously? Mind blown. That would have been...
So different. Right. Casting changes everything. But anyway, the movie we got to mention that yellow dress. Iconic.
Oh, the Carolina Herrera one. And the necklace. Worth $6 million. Bling?
No kidding. Adds to the whole rom-com glamour, right? And then the soundtrack. Somebody Like You by Keith Urban. Even You're So Vain, that Carly Simon classic, early 2000s vibes for sure.
Soundtracks are so powerful, right? They set the whole mood.
Totally. They can intensify the funny parts, the sad parts, the romantic tension. It's all part of how you experience the movie.
Sure. It makes me think of my own favorite rom-com soundtracks. Certain songs, they're tied to specific scenes in my head. Okay, but before we go full music nerd, did all this actually make money? Was it a hit?
Oh, yeah. Huge hit. Over 177 million worldwide. People loved it.
Which is interesting because I know critics were kind of mixed on it, right?
Yeah, most common complaint. Too predictable. But is that always a bad thing in rom-coms? Don't we kind of want that happy ending?
True. There's comfort in knowing it'll work out, But I am curious, what exactly did they find predictable? Any specific parts?
Oh, yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah.
And maybe also, did the movie miss any opportunities? With Andie's whole scheme and Ben urging her for a bet? Could have gotten deeper, maybe.
Yeah, rom-com. But there's some real stuff about, deception and how we treat people.
Exactly. So even a light movie can make us think about bigger things, right? Especially about relationships.
And 2003 was different. Would those same themes even land the same way now with dating apps and all that?
That's such a good point. Is playing games even possible the way they did then?
Right. It's the game itself has changed.
Big time.
Yeah.
So revisiting this movie now, it's we're seeing how our own views have changed, too.
Totally. Okay, but hold on. Before we go too deep, there's one more thing that kind of blew my mind.
What's that?
The movie's set in New York City, but they filmed some of it in Toronto.
Really? Wait, that happens more than you'd think, actually. Toronto's like Hollywood North or something. Tons of stuff gets filmed there.
Seriously? Why's that?
Well, cheaper, for one. Taxes, production costs, saves studios a ton of money.
Makes sense. Gotta watch the budget.
Totally. Plus, Toronto's got all these different looks. Skyscrapers, old neighborhoods, parks, even waterfronts. So it can be a bunch of cities in one.
Like a one-stop shop for movie sets? But does that ever mess with the, authenticity? Can you tell it's not really New York?
Oh, sometimes. Little things. Maybe a street sign, the wrong type of building. But good filmmakers, they work around it. Camera angles, sets, even CGI. They can make it look like anywhere.
It's wild what goes on behind the scenes just to make a movie work, But bringing it back to How to Lose a Guy, we've talked box office, the critics, even trivia, but it is a rom-com at its heart. So what do you think? Why do people still love this genre, even if it's predictable, formulaic? What's the appeal?
I think it's comforting, right? Like rom-coms offer this world where love wins, everything gets fixed, you leave feeling good.
Yeah, a little dose of optimism, because real life, not so simple.
Exactly. And they also tap into that need for connection. You see these characters going through relationship stuff, and even if it's exaggerated for laughs, it's still relatable.
Like we're feeling it right along with them, yeah.
And that's what makes How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days work, I think. Even if it's flawed, it reminds us that even when dating's a mess, love is still out there.
Love is still out there. I like that. Okay, so box office was great, but we were talking about this mixed reviews. Can predictability actually hurt a rom-com? Like, is there a bad way to do it?
Oh, definitely. If it's just formula, nothing new, no insight, predictable gets boring fast. Critics want originality, even in a rom-com,
Totally. Did any of the reviews actually say, like, what felt too predictable?
Yeah, a lot of them called out that grand gesture near the end when Ben crashes Andie's work thing to win her back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Critics thought it was cliche, like it didn't feel earned based on how the relationship was up to that point.
I kind of see that. You know the gesture's coming, but if it's not genuine to the characters, it falls flat.
Exactly. And some said the movie didn't really explore its own premise enough. Like, Andie's article is literally about manipulating a guy, Ben's using her for a bet. Could have gone deeper on that, the ethics of it all.
It's a rom-com, but it is about deception, kind of messed up stuff.
Right. Goes back to that window into society thing. Even a fluffy movie can have these deeper questions about relationships. What's okay, what's not.
And back in '03, dating was so different. Think those manipulation themes would hit the same way now.
Dating apps, ghosting, everyone's got this online persona. Is the kind of game they're playing even relevant anymore?
Right. The whole game's changed.
Exactly. Makes you think, watching this now, it's not just the characters. We've changed too.
We've changed too, yeah. Okay, but before we go full philosophy on this, because I do want to loop back to that filming location thing.
Oh, right, Toronto.
Yeah. So you said that happens a lot.
More than you think.
Yeah.
It's cheaper, for one. Canada has these tax breaks, lower costs. Studios love it.
Makes sense. Movies are expensive.
For sure. Plus, Toronto's versatile. It can be modern, old-timey, city, nature, all in one place.
Handy for filmmakers, but
yeah,
does it ever feel fake? Like, can you tell it's not New York?
Sometimes, yeah. Little things. A street sign's wrong or the buildings aren't quite right. But often, filmmakers, they get creative. Camera angles, set design, CGI even. You can fake anything these days.
Movie magic. Okay, so we've covered a lot with How to Lose a Guy. The money it made, the critics, even behind-the-scenes stuff. But at the end of the day, it is a rom-com. Why do you think the genre still works? What's the appeal, even with the cliches, the predictability?
I think it's comforting, right? Like, rom-coms promise you this world where love wins, problems get solved, you get a happy ending.
A little bit of hope when real life is not always like that.
Exactly. Plus, they show us connection, right? Characters going through relationship stuff, and yeah, it's heightened for the movie, but we relate to it.
Feeling it along with them.
And with this movie, even if it's flawed, it reminds us. Even if dating's a disaster sometimes, love's still possible.
Love's still possible. Okay, I like that. It makes you think, is there like a formula for rom-coms? What makes them work? Chemistry, funny dialogue, or just knowing it'll all be okay in the end?
Probably all of that, right? But I think a big thing is, can people relate to it? Even if the situation's crazy, the characters got to feel real, their problems, things we've all kind of felt.
And with this movie, even though it's so over the top, it's like, yeah, we've all had those awkward dating moments, trying to impress someone, wondering if they actually like you back.
Oh, totally. And the movie just takes those feelings, makes them bigger, funnier, like Andie trying to get dumped. It's hilarious, but also she's putting herself out there being vulnerable, even if it's for a weird reason.
And Ben, even though he's doing it for a bet, he kind of softens up. You see the real him under the, player act.
Exactly. So their connection, by the end, it feels like it makes sense. They both grew, learned something, and they choose each other for real reasons.
So even though it's predictable, it's not just fluff, right? There's actual heart in there.
Totally. That's why people still watch it, I bet.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good. There's that nostalgia factor. And it reminds us love can happen even when dating's a mess.
I like that. And hey, who doesn't want a happy ending? Especially when it comes to love.
Right. That's what we keep coming back for, that little bit of hope.
Well said. So if you're feeling nostalgic or maybe just need a rom-com fix, check out How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or even that picture book. It's a fun way to see how our ideas about love have, evolved. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another one.